will be Canada's Horse of the Year?
There's lots of candidates there. I like that Captain Treacherous. I thought he was a heck of a 2-year-old.
I would have to think that Rebecca Bayama would be a good candidate, but the owners might go to Mr. Irby.
If I was voting, I'd vote for Wheeling and Dealing. He had a great year, for an Ontario, or he's not Ontario, sorry, but for a Canadian trainer to win the Breeders' Crown like that, it's pretty special.
I'd probably say Michael's Power.
Michael's Power.
I think Michael's Power will be Canada's Horse of the Year. I just think he had when you win the Jug, it's probably the first or second hardest race in the world to win. Between the Jug and the Prix d'Amérique and the Hamiltonian, I think those are the races, and he won it. And he's a Canadian horse, Canadian bred, Canadian driven and trained.
I believe Better Than Cheddar will win Horse of the Year this year.
I got a soft spot for Foiled again, but I think Casey's horse is going to win it. Michael's Power.
I think Michael's Power. He won a lot of major stakes.
In my mind, Canada's Horse of the Year could be a Magician. She dominated the Ontario Sire Stakes.
Oh, I think Wheeling and Dealing, 9 out of 9. He's beat them all, so he won all his race in Canada, so I like him. For a 2-year-old, yeah, I like him.
Oh, I'd have to say Michael's Power.
I think Foiled again deserves it this year.
Wheeling and Dealing.
I'd like to see Wheeling and Dealing be Horse of the Year. I know a 2-year-old to be a little unbelievable, but he deserves it, I think.
Be a Magician. She broke track record, in the super final on kind of a cold night. She was impressive all year. They kept her racing well all year. And, I think she was the outstanding horse this year.
Better Than Cheddar.
Wheeling and Dealing. I think he has. That'd be awesome to see a 2-year-old get Horse of the Year.
Wheeling and Dealing, yeah. He went undefeated, 9 starts, he won the Breeders' Crown, so he should be Canada's Horse of the Year, I think.
I'd have to say Michael's Power.
Michael's Power, obviously. I'm really hoping for him to be, but he's got to go against a Toscano's trotter, and hopefully we come through winners.
Which O'Brien Award category do you think will be the closest in the voting?
Drivers.
I would think the drivers, Scott Zeron and Sylvain, are pretty close, so I would think that'll be tight.
I guess the trainer, honestly. I think Casey Coleman had another great year. Jeff Gillis had another great year with a couple of really big-time standout aged horses. And I think that Richard Moreau won more races than anybody else in Canada, and finally is recognized by the voters as one of the nominees for an O'Brien Award. So I think training category.
I actually think the Horse of the Year one will be between Foiled again and Better Than Cheddar. I think it'll be close.
Horse-wise, I'm not too sure, but I think the driver's race is going to be pretty close.
Driver, probably. Scott had a great year, and Sylvain had a great year too. I think Sylvain deserved to win. Don't take nothing off Scott, but they both had a great year. But Scott won the Jug, but Sylvain won a lot of good race too. I think it's Sylvain's year, but it will be a close call.
The trainers, all 3 trainers had a really big year, and Rich Moreau had an exceptional year this year, having the best year he ever had. But I think it'll be a very tight race.
I would say Driver of the Year is a pretty good contest.
The drivers, I guess.
Probably the trainer. I would think between Jeff Gillis and Richard Moreau. Both had outstanding seasons, and Richard's had maybe better stock this year than he's had to work with in the past, and he did an outstanding job with him.
The trainer's always close, but the drivers had a really good year. I'd have to give the nod to Sylvain. He's been there every week.
I think the driver will be pretty tight, won't it?
Probably the age trotter, I think. But there's been a wide assortment of good trotters this year, I thought.
Probably Driver of the Year. Scott Zeron, Sylvain Fillion, they both have tons of things that they can take credit for this year, so that'll come right down to the wire.
Probably drivers.
Likely between Fillion and Scotty Zeron would be. I think that'd be fairly close.
I think the trainer of the year will be the closest. I guess there's 3 trainers up for going up for grabs for that award. So if I had to choose, I think I'd give it to Richard Moreau. He had a huge year, but it's going to be a tough decision.
I'm going to go with the drivers, Scott Zeron and Fillion. I think it'll be come right down to the wire between those 2.
Well, it's probably going to be the drivers. They both had great years, and Kid won the jug, and Sylvain won a Breeders' Crown. So it's going to be real tough. They both had great years. It's first time Sylvain, so might be the Kid might have an edge on with that. But I think they both deserve the O'Brien trophy. So if there's one time I think it should be dead heat, it should be this year.
I think trainer of the year for sure. I'm pulling through for Casey, but they got 3 nominees, so I think that'll be the toughest.
I think there's a few close nominees here. I think the drivers is close, and I think the trainer is close as well. And as far as the horses, I think it's very, very good this year. I think it'll be very interesting. It'll be a nice evening.
Which O'Brien Award nominee are you most looking forward to seeing return?
Probably Be a Magician. I mean, she was definitely, head and shoulders above the rest of the trotting fillies this year, and finished on a really good note. So, I think she'll be exciting to watch next year.
I think it's going to be interesting to see what Intimidate does next year. He was a late comer that nobody really heard anything about, so those kind are always optimistic for next year, and the guy that trains him is a super good guy.
Foiled again, just a classy old horse, and he comes year after year. He races against the top horses, and he battles every race right to the wire.
Oh, I have to say Michael's Power. I'm looking for him to come back at 4, even stronger.
There's some beach somewhere called Tony Alagna there, Captain Treacherous. He's like he amazed me all summer. He never looked real 100% sound. I think he had a lot of growing pains. And I think next year, if he's just a little bit sounder, they won't beat him.
Wheeling and dealing.
Probably Michael's Power. If he was to race as a 4-year-old, it'd be great.
I have to be biased, and I have to say French Fries and Vinegar. She ended up the year with a little bit of an injury. I don't think it'll ever keep her off the racetrack, but obviously I think we have some amends to make. I really think she should have won the O'Brien, I really think she should have won the Breeders' Crown. I think probably the injury just was enough to get her beat that day, and she's been a great mare, and I expect her to be great again.
I like Captain Treacherous there. That was quite a horse. He had a tremendous speed. It was too bad he got beat there in the Breeders' Crown, but I'd like to see him race again.
It's wheeling and dealing for sure, yeah. I'd like to see Scott Zieron return. I mean, if he didn't, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but I mean, I'd like to see him return to maybe.
Foiled again, just because he's a war horse and a veteran, and I love watching him race because he shows up every week.
I would really interested in seeing Better Than Cheddar come back as a 5-year-old. I think his 4-year-old season he did great, but at 5-year-old they seem to come back better.
Wheeling and dealing, yeah. I'll have to race against him, but that's fine.
I'd like to see Captain Treacherous come back as a good 3-year-old.
I'm looking forward to Michael's Power returning. I thought he was getting a little tired at the end of the year after the jug, and then he pulled off that super final in which he went a great mile, and I'm just looking to see what he'll do next year.
Foiled again. I like watching him.
I guess it would be Wheeling and Dealing, but there's so many that I'd like to see Michael's Power come back at 4, see how he does. And Better Than Cheddar coming back again next year. So it's always exciting when you get to see the champions come back the next year, and lots of anticipation. So looking forward to it.